Hey everyone, welcome back to the Boss Podcast. I am your host, Richie Hustles, joined by my co-host, Rebecca Martinez, aka findit.flipit. And today we're joined by Ultra Records recording artist, performer, and all-around great guy, my friend, Mr. Lucas Prata.
Great to be here. How you doing?
Up, man? I'm well, man. How are you?
I feel very honored to be on your show.
Welcome to the show. I'm so happy you were here.
Well, I've been watching all your videos, so I fall asleep. Sometimes the phone hits me in the face because I'm watching your videos. I fall asleep.
Well, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing. It just means
thing.
the wife's asleep, the baby's asleep, and the phone, I fall asleep.
Just make sure it keeps playing while you're sleeping so I can get that watch time.
Oh.
We're going to get that watch time.
I think it actually happens sometimes.
Man. So you're here in Florida.
Yes, finally. I've been talking about it for decades.
You're now settled and nuzzled here?
Yeah, so I went to college here. I went to University of Miami many moons ago, and never thought I'd leave. And then the entertainment business sort of brought me back to New York. I started here with the Estefans, thinking I'm finally going to stay here, and then Club MTV and Dancing for George Lamont, CNC Music Factory, all of those things were based in New York. So I found myself, my parents came here because I would never leave. So they said, all right, let's build a house. And I ended up going back to New York and leaving them here by themselves. So it was kind of a mess.
George Lamont, you said?
Yeah, I danced for him for almost 12 years.
So you were actually like a backup dancer with him? Or
I was one of the loose touch dancers, correct.
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
And I've known you for a little while. I didn't know that.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
That is my mentor, the guy that taught me everything, literally from interviews to how to act, how not to act. He's an incredible artist. I mean, one of the best voices you'll ever hear in music. I don't even want to say freestyle. He is one of the most talented guys and just a stand-up guy, like a big brother to me, and he gave me my introduction. He'd let me go on stage and sing, and we had a skit. You know, he would always, do you want Lucas to sing? And they'd say, yeah. And he'd be like, no, and by the end of the show, we would sing a song together. So it took time. Obviously, it didn't happen right away. But yeah, I started dancing for him in like 93, right after the Salt and Pepper. No, that was after. So yeah, the George Lamont thing was a huge catapult in my career.
I was going to say, because you danced with Salt and Pepper too, right? I've read something about...
I didn't dance for them.
Okay.
I was their opening act.
Oh.
So that was my first introduction as like a solo artist that wasn't just making demos.
Okay.
Because for years I was just like, cassettes back in the day,
Yep.
And I was the guy writing songs all day, making demos, traveling all over the place, writing with everybody. But that was my first introduction to the real stage. It was Salt and Pepper was the headliner, LFO, myself,
LFO, dude,
and Naughty by Nature. That was interesting. Yeah. So I got to be. It started off as Tretch. I was petrified of Tretch in the beginning, and by the middle of the tour, we were best friends. So I was in their wedding party. It was crazy. So
that's sick.
It was a fun run. That was 1999. I got to tour 110 cities with Salt and Pepper on a tour bus. The whole experience. And that was right when Britney was coming out with her music.
Okay.
And then they were putting like a Britney Lucas Prata duet together.
Okay.
Never happened.
Okay.
But that's around the time. So I like to bring up Britney because that's the era that I was on the road with them.
And Britney was just coming out.
She was just coming out with her first single, Hit Me One More Time. Yeah, it was crazy.
That's already a ton of information to unpack just in that 3 minutes right there. That's a lot of information.
Either that or you're like, wow, this guy's really old.
No, I mean, listen, for those of you that don't know, which I'm sure everybody must know, Naughty by Nature. You're down with OPP. Yeah, you know me. No, you don't know. So you're part of the younger race. See, that's why you're here, though, too. You know what I mean?
Brittany.
I represent the older generation. You have the younger generation,
That's why it's a perfect match.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We got the memo, too. You see, we're wearing black today. That's yeah.
It's slimming.
Got the memo.
Yes.
That's what I said last episode. I said it was slimming because you could see my reflection before last time.
I should have known. I would have. I was trying to be all patriotic today, but maybe next time I'll wear a black T-shirt.
So you you went to school in Miami, but your career as an artist started in New York.
Yeah. So after I graduated college, I kind of handed my degree to my parents and to my mom. I was like, "Thank you."
Here's the piece of paper.
You know, while I was in college, I was dancing on Club MTV. So I was flying home to New York City every 5 weeks to record 25, 30 shows at the Palladium.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So, you know, back then, that was like the American Bandstand.
Yep. I remember Club MTV.
You know, to the younger audience,
Right.
Club MTV was a dance TV show with videos of the biggest videos in music, not just dance music. And we were at the Palladium, which was the biggest club in New York City, the most popular club. And MTV was behind the whole thing. It's called Club MTV. And downtown, Julie Brown was the host.
I remember that.
And she would always say, wubba, wubba, wubba. Yeah. And I auditioned for the show. I had a friend on the show. There were so many hot girls on the show, and I'm like, I need to get on this show. It was just for the girls. That's all I wanted. I mean, I was always a dancer. I was always the guy in the club dancing with battling everybody, sweating through T-shirts. But that's what it was back then. People went out to dance, have a good time. It wasn't about
Pre-cell phone era. I was going to say pre-cell phone era, man.
Nobody was trying to be popular in any other way than just like dancing and having fun in a nightclub. So that led to, you know, the Club MTV audition, and I auditioned and it happened. I was like, I got the phone call. I'm like, okay, now what? So my mom made me a deal. She's like, you got these grades, you keep these grades up, and you can fly home every time you want to tape, because we would tape 35, almost close to 30 shows every 6 weeks or 5 weeks. Wow. So we would fly home and literally bring suitcases of clothes, and we'd start at like 7 a.m. We'd get there like 6 or 7 o'clock, and we would film Saturday and Sunday, and you just change clothes for every show. So it got to be pretty cool. And, you know, there was a lot of people that came off that show to become like big stars. And I don't know if you watch, you know who Hill Harper is? He's a huge actor. He's on all those like, I want to say like detective shows. If you saw him, you'd be like, I know that guy. You know, he was on the show Martha, what's her name from CNC Music Factory? The second singer, not Martha Wash, the other one. But there was Camille Grammer, who married Kelsey Grammer. She was my dance partner on the show. Everyone thought we dated. We didn't date. But yeah, it was just an amazing experience. So 5 years of that, and I watched every act come through that TV show, from the Red Hot Chili Peppers to Lanier. I mean, everything.
Red Hot Chili Peppers was on there, and that's
Club MTV.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, many times.
Because I remember Club MTV. I remember the show Club MTV, and I remember watching it, but I don't remember specific artists. And I remember they would do like Club MTV at spring break, and it would be this big dance party on the beach. Like
that was the greatest weekend of my life.
It looked like the greatest.
So they had to pick you to be on that show.
Okay.
So I got picked to be on that show twice, and I did Daytona Beach. You know, there was like 250 people dancers on the show. Then you had the host. And then you had like the favorites and the more popular ones. And like I said, I came in, I was like, I didn't know anybody. So it sort of had to find my way on that show. And then they picked the tour. I got picked to go on tour with the show. So I kind of worked my way up, I guess, the levels of that show. And then like I think it was like 1992, 93, you know, I had seen George Lamont come and sing Bad of the Heart on the show. I mean, Bobby Brown was on the show. Yep. You name it. It was the show. You had to, if you were an artist and you were like in the top 40, you were on Club MTV, because the video would play and they would have you come. No one sang live, believe it or not, because it was aired for TV. So they all had to like lip sync their songs, which I thought was funny. But that's what gave me the inspiration to say, you know, I went to school. I thought I was going to be a baseball player. Like I really thought I was going to like go more towards sports, but I was always that guy in the street dancing on my cardboard, you know, in the clubs, and really dancing became my life. Really, it was kind of weird. And my mom, especially my mom, single mom, like tried so hard to get me to like focus on school and education and become a doctor and a lawyer. And I was like, I want to dance.
I want to be an entertainer.
I want to sing. And she was like, what? You know, I was in chorus since 3rd grade. I was always the kid doing the solos in chorus, singing in church.
Okay.
So we knew that like I liked to sing, and I could sing pretty decently. I don't want to say I was like this crazy singer, because I wasn't, but I was good enough to record stuff and do solos in church and stuff like that. So it all kind of led to that. And then George Lamont had this audition, and I'm like, but I want to be an artist. I want to be in his spot. I don't want to be in the background. Mm-hmm. But then I thought about it, probably had some advice from some people, and they said, you got to start somewhere, dude. And he's the king. He is the guy. He's the best at what he does in that genre of music. You're always the headliner at every concert. He travels all over the world. Just try it.
Like, this is the guy to get involved with.
I mean,
to get in.
I didn't know it was going to be what it was, but at first I was like, yeah, I guess I'll dance for him. And I auditioned and I didn't hear back from them for like 2 months. And I'm like, oh, I didn't get it. And then out of nowhere, I get a phone call. They're like, oh, I was like the token, like, as much as I'm Latino, like I'm Italian and Cuban, but I come across more like a blanquito, like a white boy. And they wanted that, like, on the stage. They wanted that, more of that, middle, like, Long Island suburban kid, dancing on stage, just to mix it up, the crowd, give everything a little more salt and pepper, And it turned out to be the best thing I ever did, because like I said earlier, I learned so much from George, and I got to tour everywhere with him. Small stages, big stages. I mean, we did Toronto, 62,000 people in Toronto.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. The Boss Podcast is sponsored by Amazon Lit. If you're looking to start an Amazon business, or you'd like information on how to start an Amazon business, or maybe you already have an Amazon business and you're looking for guidance, knowledge, or education, you definitely want to check out the guys over at Amazon Lit. I got a link in the description. You can check it out and go ask them whatever you like. There's no obligation, but you can at least ask them and get some knowledge and education. If you've always wanted to start a business, now's the time to do it. There's no better time than now. Amazon Lit, appreciate you guys. Thank you for sponsoring the podcast. And now back to the show.
Things that I would never in a million years imagine being able to do, I did with that guy. And then when I finally got that salt and pepper call came in, it was hard. It was like breaking up with somebody. I was like, are you okay with this?
Let me ask you that question. That's 62,000 people in Toronto. Was that the clip I sent you on Instagram where I was like, this is crazy?
No.
And you were on stage. I was like, oh, wait.
That was Poughkeepsie, New York, K-Fest, K104. Okay. That was huge. It was me, Rihanna, T.I., 98 Degrees. I mean, those are the days.
Nick Lachey in the building.
Those are the days. But at the time, that show, they told me that day that the song went #1, my single, and she said, on that station, like that Friday, and the show was on Saturday. So I didn't know what I was walking into, and I walked into this, like, madhouse of I felt like a new kid on the block for a minute.
I think I sent you a clip of Lucas when he was singing, and Snooki from Jersey Shore was on stage, or
she's from that area.
Right,
yeah.
Right. I figured that.
She was a big fan for years. She would be in the front row at every Poughkeepsie show. And once the show took off, Jersey Shore, they called us. There was a bunch of talks about me being on the show, not being on the show, and it just timing-wise never worked out. I was pretty busy back then, but we did do a couple of shows with Snooki where she hosted and I performed, and I think that's the one you're talking about.
I think so. But she was sitting there just kind of like dancing, and you were like singing. I think you were singing, and she said,
"Yeah." And she's done some YouTube videos because she's a big Met fan.
Okay.
And she said is also the 8th inning Met song at every game. So there's a parody to that song, to my song for the New York Mets, and she's a huge Met fan, so she did a parody. I think she did like a YouTube video. I think it's out there, but we did a bunch of stuff with Snooki. She's a lot of fun. We had a good time.
She seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah,
she seems like a lot of fun.
Now she's a mom of what, 2 or 3?
I think two.
Two kids. Yeah,
2, maybe.
We're all growing up.
We are all grown up. There's nothing like our era. I want to bring it back to, you were talking about MTV and how, like, when you would go, and you said you would go in and you would battle because you were dancing. And I can remember even when I was a teenager going to the club and forming the circle, right? And it was house music, trance, break, even hip hop, no matter what it was. We would form the circle and everybody would take a turn going in. We'd battle. It was all friends. It was all love. It was good time. And like, you had fun. You didn't have anything distracting. And now today, everybody seems to just have their phone out, and even though they might be starstruck, if it's like a Tiesto concert or a big performer or whoever, and they just got their phone out and they're just like recording, like, and they're not. I feel like nobody nobody knows how to enjoy themselves anymore. It's just, hey, let me get this so I can post it because I want to get likes. I want to get views. Like, it's about me, me, me. I don't know how to have a good time. Like, what do you think, like, this generation is like, you think they're forgetting to have, like, a good time? Like, they're missing out on so much.
Listen, I think they're missing out. And I love that you're on this panel right here, because the truth is, I know I had the greatest childhood ever. I mean, forget about where I grew up, just music-wise. You know, taping radio stations, hitting record on my cassette tape just to get those songs. There was something to be said about finding the song. You know, what was that?
Right.
Like, I'll never forget, I heard Alicia, All Night Passion. I was getting a haircut. And, you know, that's my era. Like, I was like 15, maybe 14. And I was like, what was that? Like, it did something to my soul. Every hair on my body stood up. And I'm like, what song was that? What station was that? Calling the radio station. What song did you play around 1 o'clock? Like, that's what we had to do to find the music. And I feel like back then, because it was so hard to find and it was such a moment to, like, hear something that you enjoyed, and then, like, everything today is so disposable. Like, I used to manage a DJ crew, DJ duo, and they're like 27, 28, 29, and when I send them music, they listen to 30 seconds of the song. Just the beginning and the break and the drop. And I'm like, guys, listen to what I'm sending you. Well, for what? I'm just going to go to the drop. And I'm like, no, dude. Like, when I listened to music when I was a kid, whether it was Billy Joel, Neil Diamond, whoever it was, Whitney Houston, Queen, all the things that I'm trying to remember, my vinyls, The Village People, you know, all those things. I would read the lyrics as it played. Now, I don't think that's because I became a musician. I think most people did that. They absorbed music so differently, you know? And today I think it's just there's so much of it. Everybody wants to be an artist today, right? I mean, think about when our parents grew up. You know, there was just a handful of artists, you know? I mean, Elvis will always be Elvis. Right. But there was a handful of artists. Now we're so consumed with people who want to be artists, whether it's American Idol, whether it's The Voice. Like, everybody's an artist today. And I think that in a way it's a good thing because it makes people creative, right? But at the same time, it's like there's too much info coming in.
But I almost feel like is it people wanting to be an artist,
or they just want to be famous?
They just want the attention.
Listen, wanting to be famous, I'd be a liar if I said I didn't want to be famous. I knew there was a lot of hard work involved. But in the beginning, it's kind of all you want. You're like, oh, you know, I remember going to the New Kids on the Block concert, and I floated out of that concert because I was like, oh my God, that's what I want. That's the feeling that I want, you know. And people laugh. They're like, oh, you're the sixth New Kid on the Block. I kind of looked at my life that way until I actually found my sound. But, you know, I missed the boat on a couple of those pop eras, you know. But to this day, like, I'll go see them in July. You know, they're all friends of mine now. I got to perform with them. I got to work with them on different levels. But I remember the first time I saw them, you know, and that's the reason why I became an artist. But in the beginning, it was the popularity, you know. And I think as you go on, you decide, well, do I really want to do this just to be popular, or do I want to do this because it makes me happy and it's, you know, I want to change other people's lives with my music. And if you do it right, you can. And there's people out there that I've touched their lives in a way that I never imagined, but it was because of the music, whether it was the lyrics, what the song made them feel like. I mean, whether they were terminally ill, people in hospitals, things like that I did in my career that you can't put a price tag on that, you know, or people getting married. Like, I still show up to people's weddings to this day, and I pop out of the floor. I come from behind a curtain because they got engaged to my song, or they met and they both had my songs in common. Like, and to this day, it's 2024. I'm still flying back to New York to do weddings.
That's awesome.
And surprising brides and grooms, or, you know, the wedding party doesn't even tell the bride and groom I'm coming, and I show up, and it's like, you watch tears come out of their eyes. They're like, and that makes it all worth it, But I hate to sound like an old man, because whenever I talk about today and yesterday, and it sounds like, get off my lawn kind of thing.
You don't understand my music.
But the reality is, music is so different today. It's the way kids listen to music today is very different from the way we did. And dancing was, we went to clubs to dance. Now people go to clubs to get on IG and get as many likes as they can, which it's crazy. It's like a clout thing,
They want clout.
It's a little disturbing, but again, time changes. You have to sort of go with the flow a little bit. I'm guilty. I go to concerts and I'm like, got my phone up. I'm a big country fan now. I love country music, and I go to a lot of country concerts, and I have like probably 2 hours of Luke Bryan on my phone, because my wife and I love to go watch Luke Bryan. And I'm like, am I holding my phone up right now? Like, I feel like such an idiot, but I'm guilty of it now.
Rebecca, what do you think about like your era of I guess this current era of music? Like, if you go out to places, like whether it's bars or clubs, I'm not sure if you're going out to these places, but what do you think about like the music scene and like how it's just how it is?
Well, I think it's a little bit hard for me because that's all I know. So like, I was born in 98. So like, I got a little bit of like the beginning times, and like, of course, with my parents, like my mom loved 80s music and things like that. So, but now going out, if it doesn't have a beat, or it doesn't have like, if you don't know the song, like you could get bored really easy, even though the song might be really good.
Right.
And kind of the same thing, like we're not necessarily making dance circles anymore. Anymore, and like saying to come in and dance, and then like dance battles and stuff. But it always is cool, I think, with my era, I guess, of when an older song is played, because we still kind of know those songs from our parents. So it's always like iconic. But I would say, some of the music now, I feel like it's definitely trashy compared to what it was.
I was waiting for you to finish, because I was going to say, one of the things that I notice, and again, I'm not saying this from being an older guy, I'm a dad now, so I have maybe a different look on things, but music back then was so feel good. Whether it was George Michael, whether it was the Jackson 5, whether it was freestyle, rock and roll, everything was so positive.
And now it's not. It's like,
and now I
demeaning.
have an 18-year-old niece, and she'll come and spend a week with us. And I'm like, what are you listening to?
It's raunchy.
It's so
raunchy, like
it's
shock value, like
it's vulgar.
Yeah.
It's vulgar. And she's like, oh, and I get it. She wants to be hip and cool. She's a beautiful girl. She wants to be, accepted through her friends, and this is what we all listen to. And I got nephews and nieces that are around the same age, and this is what they play. Like when they're getting ready for a lacrosse game, like they're listening to this music. I'm like, what is that?
And we don't even just listen to it, we sing it. Like we speak it out loud, like all these horrible sentences and horrible words and horrible scenarios, and we're all just like singing it and like embodying what they're saying, and we're not even processing exactly what they're saying, because like the beat is just so good, or it's all we know.
It's all you know.
Did you see the Chris Rock comedy special? I just want to interject with that, because you said we don't even know what we're just singing it, we're embodying it, right? Chris Rock came out and he was singing when Little John came out. He goes, skeet skeet. He's like, some of these girls in the club don't even know what skeet skeet means. He goes, I love hip hop. Tired of defending it. He goes, you got these girls in the club like skeet 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 skeet. It's like, do you know what skeet skeet is? Like, it's just crazy.
No, they don't. But that's just the way it is. And again, like I said, you have to be open-minded to like things changing, right? But at the end of the day, artistry, songs, melodies, stories, maybe that's why I like country so much. Because when you listen to country music, even if it's about the guy's black truck with big wheels,
bottle of liquor,
it's a little bit more genuine.
It's just, there's a story there.
Yeah.
And when I watch these country award shows, honestly, I don't change the channel. I don't want to, I can't watch the Grammys anymore. No. I can't watch the American Music Awards anymore. And it's before I had a kid. I'm not even going to blame it on being a dad. It's raunchy. Nobody supports each other anymore. Mm-hmm. Everybody's like, pointing fingers and
every man for themselves.
Yeah, like every man for themselves. Whereas country, they accept one another. They even give their trophies. They're like, oh, I know I won, but you should have this. You know, like, it's amazing.
I'm not gonna lie, you ain't taking my trophy if I get an award.
But
I earned that.
You know, but I just feel like this is what I want my kid to listen to. She's only 3, but I play as much country music as I can around her. And don't get me wrong, we play a lot of.
Yeah, I was gonna say me too.
And she loves the beats. She loves dance music. Like she the other day I played something and I said something about, it was a Robbie Rivera track, and I go, yeah, that's dirty beats. She got in the car and she goes, Daddy, put that dirty beats back on. And I was like, what did she say? And she's like, dirty beats, dirty beats. So I came up with this little melody with dirty beats, and she's been singing it for like a month. You know, whenever she gets in the back seat, dirty beats, daddy, dirty beats. You know, and it's just funny. It's really funny. She's got it in her blood. But I just, you know, I'm not trashing all the music. I don't want to, you know, I just feel like the music today, it's so disposable.
Right.
Like when I listen to songs, 30 years later, and I'm not being biased to like, so I could listen to a Prince song, a Michael Jackson song, even some of the R&B stuff, or 30, 40 years later. The music today, I say it to my niece all the time, do you think that this song, in 30 years, someone's going to give a rat's, you know what about it? Mm-hmm. And she's like, I don't know. I'm like, no, the answer is no. So where are today's Bruce Springsteens? Where are today's Prince, the George Michaels? Where are they? Like, do they exist?
Yeah, I think auto-tuned ruined a lot of that, because I felt like auto-tune gave everybody the right to say, hey, it doesn't matter if I can sing, if I sound good or anything, I can digitally remaster my voice to sound to a certain way. Where, you know what, as long as if I look a certain way and if I can act and talk a certain way, it doesn't matter about my music, because I carry the swag and the music can be altered. I mean, especially with AI now.
Yeah.
It's
crazy. Taking away all that creative.
It's taking away all the artistry. Like, if you could be the best singer in the world, but if you're shy, you lack a certain look or a certain way, you know what? The person who has no talent is going to go over you, because we can make that person have
But
talent.
I will say this. Being a superstar, you have to have pieces to the puzzle. You don't have to be the greatest singer, but you have to have the great personality. You have to have a look that people like can relate to. Natural, being a natural on stage, performing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just you're the greatest singer. Because I know a lot of people who have probably the best voices I've ever heard in my life, but they don't have the package. You have to have. And I did that in my management, because I transitioned to be a manager for over 10 years prior to COVID. That was my job. I was managing Disney artists, and they were coming from everywhere. I mean, I couldn't even handle the amount of work coming in, because I had that. Everyone knew that if you want to develop your kid and have a great mentor that's going to show them how to write songs and be ready for a Disney sort of thing, right? Radio, top 40. And it was my business, basically. You know, I was mentoring artists. It was sort of management/mentor. And I love doing that, you know, but it was not just about the talent. You have to have a piece of all the right things in order you could be the greatest singer, but this person here can blow you away because they have the full package.
You know, and it's crazy, because when we talk about MTV, you know, I feel like kids today really missed out on what MTV was.
We knew MTV Cribs.
MTV Cribs
that was a great show.
That was a great show.
My Super Sweet 16.
Hello.
Would make me cry and be like,
but
my Sweet 16 better be like that.
Well, guess what? When you get home tonight, go to My Super Sweet 16 episode 1.
It's all like fake, isn't it?
And see who the artist was that surprised the little girl, the 16-year-old. Yes, it was. So I was episode 1 of My Super Sweet 16, where she had the snake around her neck. What was her name again? She'd kill me if I forgot her name. But that show changed my life. It's funny you even said that, because everything, you know, when they say things just click in a line, like my single just went #1 in Billboard for week 4. Z100 added it. Kiss 108 added it. Like all the big top 40 stations. And then the My Super Sweet 16 show that I taped already, that I didn't know what the show was going to be about, other than, hey, Kim Sazi's on it, Scribble's on it, you're on it, Fat Man Scoop's on it. Like, there was like 15 acts performing. What I didn't know was that the entire show revolved around her wanting Lucas Prata at her show, at her party, and they told her he's not available. And she started breaking glass and flipping tables. It's all on. You got to watch it.
And it was the real deal. It wasn't.
It was. She was freaking out, right? So I'm sitting here watching the show with my dancers, my family. We're all watching, and I'm watching the show just like anybody else. I did not know what how the show was going to be edited, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like the whole show is about me and her, and Vic Latino was the host. It was crazy. That show aired, I want to say 700 times, in like, I didn't even know there was 300 countries out there. It nuts. And that sort of did that, like when everything sort of aligned and then the show aired, my manager called me. He was like, "Are you ready?" I'm like, "Ready for what?" He's like, "For what you've been waiting your whole life for." I'm like, "You're just being, nothing's going to happen." Next thing I know, I'm flying overseas to do Sweet 16s. I'm in helicopters going from one Sweet 16 to another. I'm following police cars taking me from one Sweet 16 to another in the tri-state because they were fighting about who was going to have Lucas at the Sweet 16.
I need to rewatch this episode.
It was the crazy.
We should have a watch party.
It was the craziest thing. So that show had some power behind it, and MTV has power behind it. It's just not about music anymore.
I know.
That's the bad thing.
But that's the thing I'm talking about. I can't believe MTV had such an influence musically. And I understand, like, you know, maybe music videos aren't as popular now as they were when we were growing up, but like just I feel like they even got away from music style shows.
When you said MTV, she said Cribs.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what people her age say. They talk about reality TV shows. Yeah. They talk about Cribs was a great show, by the way.
Was a great show, but I did hear that some of them was scripted, though. I heard some of them was scripted.
A lot of stuff.
Redman, like for instance, Redman
Well,
episode.
they were like fake. They would get into a fake house and show a fake house.
That I didn't know. I mean, I believe those were their houses, but there's always a script behind something.
Sure.
But like there was no script for when I did Super Sweet 16 because I didn't know they just told me to sing. But there was a script that they knew, like, let's make this really interesting. Mm-hmm. And they did tell her I wasn't available, and they got it all on video when she flips the table and she smashes the glass, you know, and I'm watching it going.
So you thought she knew that you were coming. You had no idea that they had told her.
No idea. I went to that show the same way every artist went to that show. And I was like, when do I go on? That's all I knew.
And then they controlled the narrative however they controlled it.
And the show starts, and it's me in my bathroom putting gel in my hair and then cutting to her and saying, if I don't have Lucas Prata at my Sweet 16, I don't want a Sweet 16. And I was like, what did she just say? So I kind of, not even my manager knew. I thought maybe he knew, and he's like, let's not tell Lucas. Let's let him be surprised. He didn't even know. So when they edited this whole thing together, it was basically, you know, and then they did a reunion for the Sweet 16, like 3 years later, and they had all the girls, you know, on TV sitting on the floor. And one of the things that, like, I get chills thinking about it, like a couple of the girls were like, you know, I never knew who Lucas Prata was until I watched that show. And that song is like my favorite song of all time. And that song defines my teenage years. You know, like that's how powerful that show is. Or that's how powerful that channel is. But now it's not about music anymore. But somehow, some way, that show catapulted me into more of a international spotlight because the whole world saw that episode. You know.
So now you did all this stuff with MTV. You were dancing for George Lamond, for Salt and Pepper. You're moving through. Your songs plural are hitting #1 spots for multiple weeks.
Yes,
all the time now. You know, at what point are you like, man, I need to take this almost to another level, like a festival where I know you said you were at festivals in New York and you played for 62,000 people, but when did you go off like on your own where you know like you kept in touch with George Lamond because you were Lucas Prata now and you were getting record deals and you were getting, you know, all this like recognition?
It was my own. It was my time.
It was your time.
It was my time, but I'll be the first to say an artist, if they they want to deny it, they're lying. You don't have much time. Like you make the time, and I always say this, if you work hard enough, you'll get the chance. The trick is keeping it going, right? And the people that don't get to that, I always call it's like a little island, and there's water here. If you get to that island and you're lucky enough to get there, the hard part is staying on that, because that thing's constantly revolving. And the people that don't get there, they just don't have what it takes, maybe not talent-wise, but it takes a lot, sacrifice. It takes a lot of persistence. People telling you no to your face. You suck. You're too old to do this. How many years are you going to do this for? That was fire for me. That made me work so much harder. And everyone's, I was engaged back then to someone else. And she was like, you're a dreamer. Like, that's not what I signed up for. And I was like,
bye.
Peace. But listen, I respected that because she was a professional. And she had a great job. And she was like, hello, like, how long are you going to do this for? Like, I have a life too. So I never looked, I said peace in a funny way, but she wasn't wrong, So in this world we live in, I'm grabbing my phone because I want to read you something.
Yeah.
It just hit me. And you guys will, I don't know if you could agree to it or understand what it means, but this is one of the most powerful things I've ever read. All right. To be a successful artist, you must be unrealistic and delusional.
You have to. I feel like any type of success, you have to live in a delusion. For sure.
For a long time.
Yeah, for a long time.
Because it doesn't happen overnight, and it's the people like, you think George Clooney and all these major, listen to their stories. The 30 years of no's and doing B movies and being broke and sleeping on people's couches. I remember those days. I remember being in LA and getting off the plane and going, okay, now what? Like, who am I staying with? Like, just before any sort of success
Sure.
or enough money coming in to do something. But you have to sacrifice, and you have to say, I'm willing to fall on my face until I'm ready to say I quit. And it's the people that don't quit. I never won a Grammy. I've won plenty of dance awards, and being number one in Billboard and being recognized is always fun, for your music, like there goes that, I want to be famous. Well, it'll come as long as you work your ass off, and all of that stuff. To this day, people stop me in the street or say, hey, do I know you? Like, it's flattering. I'm not going to lie, but it takes so much to get to that point. And artists out there, if anybody's watching, if you're not willing to put 10 to 15 years of your life on hold, find something else to do. And I know that sounds really raw.
It is raw, but it's the absolute truth. Like,
Yeah.
you have to put on hold, like, everything.
Yeah.
Family included.
Listen, I'm an old dad because of my career. And like I said, I didn't win these giant accolades, but I did things that I never dreamed of doing. Or maybe I did dream of doing and said, that shit'll never happen. You know what I mean? So now that I could look back and watch videos like that, or, interviews or things that I did with like funny stuff. Like, I'm an honorable Girl Scout for the Girl Scouts of America, and this giant event that I did, and they gave me this plaque, Lucas Prata honor. And I'm like, how did I become an honorable Girl Scout? But like, so many things that I look through stuff. I like to keep a lot of things. My wife wants to kill me because I save a lot of things. But I just look through stuff, and I look through videos, and I'm like, look at that crowd. Like, I don't even need a microphone. They're singing every word to my music. So those type of things, those are goals. Those are things that I dreamt of as a young boy, maybe at that New Kids concert, maybe one day. But if you take the years that it took to go from that New Kids concert, which was 1990, to my first number one single, Let's Get It On, 2002. That's 12 years of everyone in my life knowing that I'm making demos, I'm writing songs, and I put my degree to the side to become an artist. And, you go to family dinners and everyone's like, are you still doing this?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I was emceeing bar mitzvahs in the greatest city in the world. and making really good money doing it to compensate for not having that 9 to 5, you know? So you got to sacrifice. And I had those things, DJ companies. I mean, what better place than New York City to do giant weddings and bar mitzvahs and sweet 16s, you know? So that paid the bills, but you literally have to sacrifice, you know? And I don't know how many kids today would sacrifice for that.
I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the thing. I think social media, you know, everybody has access to all these things and all these views. And I think that people look at that because a lot of times 99% people, me included, we're only showing the good times, the great, all the profit I'm making, this and that. You know, part of my business, I would do lives because people were saying, "Oh, you're not being transparent. You're just showing when you find items in a store to sell on Amazon."
Right.
But what about when you don't? So I was like, okay, then I'll go live once a week, and more than not, we found nothing, and it was just a live, and people could see, and I think that kind of resonated with people. But people, I think, are not willing to put themselves out there enough. You know, they want everything immediate. They want that instant gratification now.
Right.
And you said 12 years. That's a long time to grind, but you wanted it, you believed it, and it happened.
And I'm that overnight sensation, by the way. So 12 years, and the first thing a radio interview. So like, what's it like to just all of a sudden have a big #1 hit? And I'm like, what did you say? And a lot of people say that, you know, like I have like the Mayahi song, right? For example, that was from a group out of Moldova. It became the Macarena of its time. It sold millions, still selling millions. I wrote the English version to that song.
I was going to say you co-wrote that.
Well, I was able to connect through Ultra Music, Ultra Records, and go to, I think I went to Rome, and I got to record and write the version of that. And that's when like everything sort of popped with that song. That was before And She Said. I was on the Today Show, Good Morning America. I was Mahiahi. I mean, it was everywhere. I mean, it was the biggest like dance song since the Macarena. No joke. I mean, it was international. Knocked Usher out of #1 in like 18 countries and stayed at #1. There was covers of it, covers of the hit that were bigger than the hit at numbers 1, 3, and 5. Think about how much money, you know, and then Rihanna and T.I. took the song.
I was just going to say.
Live Your Life. I mean, I probably can't say what the split was, but the split was so big for the guy who wrote that song. It's insane how much money he's made. And he's a superstar in Eastern Europe. I mean, Russia and Moldova, all those countries up there. I mean, he's a Russian, he's the king, you know? But that song put me on another ride of my life because everybody was talking about, you know, the kid on YouTube doing the Mayahi song, you know, and I got to be on, you know, interviewed by Matt Lauer on the Today Show. It did some cool stuff, and that was prior to And She Said. So it was like they were like, "You better follow this up, dude." You know, like, you know. But that song didn't even really get the recognition that it did overseas here in America, because to a lot of people, the way when I first heard it, it was a yodel song. Like it just. Are you familiar with the Mayahi song?
It wasn't
only because
Tiana.
of Rihanna.
Yeah,
because of Rihanna, and now you got David Guetta and One Republic just did. They used the melody for the song, and it's like the #1 dance song in the world right now. So again, publishing. So you got to be smart. You got to know how to write songs, learn how to write your own songs, and protect yourself, because those songs and that publishing, you know, 20 years from now, somebody can re-sing And She Said, and my kid will make, you know, it'll be all hers. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, I know
it's so
exactly
smart to write your own songs. But yeah, when Rihanna and T.I. did that, it was huge. It was like 9 weeks at #1. And this guy's sitting in Eastern Europe going,
collecting. Yep.
Yeah, literally.
counting his cash. I mean, unbelievable.
How does somebody link up like that? Like, does T.I. and Rihanna or their team, do they just say, hey, you know what? I like this melody. Let's reach out to this guy. Or like, how do they?
I mean, I guess they're all vibing in the studio, you know, and
like, do they get shopped too? Like, hey, check this out.
And that's a melody that's just really catchy.
Right.
And someone in that room probably was like, you know, live your life. They whatever they did on that melody, because in the beginning of the song, she sings the melody. But that was huge for him. you know, and there's other versions out there that he's recently done as well. That if you look it up on YouTube, it's called Numa Numa, the Numa Numa song, and I sing it at all my concerts. You know, I just did a show in February. We sold out 2 nights in a row. I was shocked. I'm like, people still give a shit about people showing up. My wife's like, look at the line. I'm like, that's not for me.
So and you know, it's crazy because now it's like in today's day, I feel like dance music itself, it's evolved, but I find that a lot of dance music is reusing older dance music. Like they're starting to recycle things. Like I'm starting to pick, and me at my age, I'm like, man, I was playing this in the club when I was 18, 19. You know what I mean?
But what does that tell you about the music back then?
It was better.
Right.
The music was better. The melodies were better. There were more vocalists. I mean, don't get me wrong. I listen to BPM all the time. And I listen to Diplo's channel all the time. And I love what I'm hearing. It's definitely getting a lot better. But it's the hip hop that I have a hard time listening to today. It's tough. And like I said, my nephews and nieces, they're at that age and that's all they listen to. And I hear it and I'm like, oh. So it's maybe it is because I'm getting older, but at the same time, like I still have my channel on Sirius XM. I get to play my favorite old school dance songs from the 90s and 2000s. I showcase certain things that I thought were amazing, you know, the Eric Murillos of the world, and you know, all
R.I.P. Eric Murillo, man.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, some of the songs that I play takes me right back to where I was, and I say that on the air a lot. And people write to me, they're like, I remember where I was when I heard that, and that's what music should be all about, you know. I mean, maybe in 10 years you'll hear a song and you say, wow, I remember being in whatever club or beach party or whatever it was, and it'll take you back to that time. Yeah. And that's what I think is lacking, I think, a lot with the music today. So
now with Sirius Radio, you host a weekly countdown, right?
So it started out as holiday weekends, and there were no jocks on the radio, so I was just persistent. I was like, you know, hey, you know, you need a voice on here, you know. Like, well, you know, we're just playing the music and we have sweepers and this and that. And then they're like, all right, you want to host the July 4th weekend? You want to host Memorial Day weekend? So I would host that stuff. And then little by little, and then I said, you know, what about a countdown? Like I call it the decades of dance countdown. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of decades of dance out there. I didn't create that name. But I just figured it just makes sense. The decades of dance, and play the top 10 songs from that week. So like this Friday, like tomorrow, it'll be, let's say 2002, the top 10 dance songs, and I get to pick a deep cut. So I go through my music and I find a song that brings me back to 2002, and I'll play that as my deep cut. But it's fun. You know what? It keeps me relevant, maybe in my own head.
No, I would say it keeps you relevant because I listen to Sirius all the time, and I always hear your stuff on there all the time. You know, the one, as a matter of fact, I was watching, I'm not sure if you said it on social media or you said it on Sirius XM. You said it somewhere, but what made me think of you to say, hey, let me reach out to Lucas and see if he wants to come on the show is one song. It was by September. You'll never see
Cry
me
for You.
again. Oh my God, what a song. What a song.
Amazing.
And I remember you talking about it and you were like, this is like the song, man. And I'm like, you know what? He's so right. It's just a great track, man. Great track of the era. Like
Sweden. That's all I got to say. The Swedish producers in music. I mean, some of the greatest, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Britney, all Swedish. Those were all Swedish producers and writers. They're the greatest around. You can't compare it.
You think NSYNC and Backstreet Boys were better than New Kids on the Block?
Ooh.
I'm from Boston, so I gotta stick up for my boys over there.
I was a fan of all their music because in my crazy mind, I was a New Kid on the Block in my own brain. One day I'll jump on stage with them and check that off the bucket list. But I would rather see a New Kid show because I guess if I had to pick, it's tough to pick those songs. Are you too young to remember NSYNC and Backstreet?
No, I like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys. I've heard New Kids on the Block, but I don't think I can name a song.
Right. Okay.
So
just hanging tough.
Not ringing.
Yeah.
That shows my age right there. That's my age. That's my age.
Here's a perfect example. They're 55, 54, 53. They're in their 50s, okay? They've been doing this for 40 years. When you go to their concert, not that you would, but if you did, there's not an empty seat.
Yep.
No one sits down. And these are 50-year-old women, and some of their husbands tag along. They're tailgating outside in the parking lot, and they have their blankets and pillowcases and dolls from when they were kids. So you talk about feel good and bringing you back to a moment in your life when nothing mattered but the New Kids on the Block. Like, think about that. And these people get to like shut their lives off for 2 hours.
And remember the good time.
And remember the greatest time ever. And that's what those shows are about. And I'm sure NSYNC and Backstreet, or all these kind of shows, all these throwbacks, the Paula Abduls, and I think
Paula Abdul.
New Kids on the Block had Paula Abdul, Salt and Pepper, Rick Astley, and Vogue.
Whew.
I mean, every single song that they played, people were like, you could see the glitter, the gloss in their eyes, they're just like. Bring tears to your eyes.
Rebecca, to give you an idea, I had in elementary school, I had a New Kids on the Block lunchbox I swear to God,
he said it on the air.
And listen, it was back then. We didn't have lunch bags and all that stuff. It was a tin lunchbox that came with a built-in thermos. You unscrew, you have the cup, right? We never drank from the cup, but it was there. You always drink from the thermos. It was New Kids on the Block. And I remember sitting there, third, fourth grade, in the lunchroom, long table with the little round seats next to each other, and we were talking. We were singing "Hangin' Tough," and we were singing all the songs, step by step, like all that stuff.
It was cool, believe it or not. It was cool. Rebecca's like, no, it's not.
Well, I think for us, I think mine was Hannah Montana.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hannah Montana. Okay.
That was more of like she had her own TV show and everything. I'll tell you a funny Jordan Knight story. So. We performed at Copacabana. It was a big KTU show. There was about 3,000 people there. And I had the biggest song on the radio at the time with And She Said. And Jordan had his solo career. So Jordan was on the radio as well with one of his songs. So I'm backstage. And the funny part is that my wife today was with me, but she wasn't my wife back then. I was actually dating someone else. But she was there with me, and she remembers this. She's like, I've never seen you like this. I'm backstage, and Jordan Knight comes into the backstage area. Now, I like to talk, as you can see, and I'm not shy, and I don't really like. He came over to me, and I was like, I have song radio song. I was making no sense, and she goes, I remember that night. She goes, you were speechless, and it was so crazy because this is what I decided to do with my life, and I was actually doing good at it, and had hit songs on the radio, and here comes this guy that I kind of idolized him when I was younger. You know, maybe we're the same age, but you know what's crazy is that I got to meet him, right? And I talking to him, and when I did the Salt and Pepper tour, he was right behind us, like every time we stopped at a different city. So he got to see, I got to meet him there as well. I probably did the same thing. So the biggest part of the story is I get on stage to sing And She Said, and the place is going crazy. And I look to the left of the stage, and he's got one foot on the stage, and he's standing like this, and he's just watching me perform.
Talk about being like
No, dude, I almost forgot every word, and I was like, it did something to me that I thought I was gonna fall down.
Like you wish you never saw him right there. Like you wanted him there, but you wish you didn't see him looking.
I know the story sounds so weird, but it was like, here's the guy that I idolized, and that. Kind of like when I saw him perform, I was like, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. This is the kind of reaction. This is the kind of music I want to do. The music changed. Obviously, I added some BPMs to everything that I did. But here he is leaning on the stage, watching my show. Bugged me out. It was like a moment in my career that I was like, talk about full circle. It was pretty wild, man.
Now, I know we were talking a little off camera, but I just want to touch base on it real quick. Did you ever perform with Louis DeVito?
So yeah, actually, I think you were at one of the shows in Boston. Louis and I was on his CDs, like his top selling CDs. I mean, the guy holds the record, I think, for the most compilations ever sold. Him and Tiesto. We became really good friends. He was actually in my wedding party. And we've done some like birthday party shows, holiday shows. What where I sing, he DJs. He's doing really well right now. He's got a lot of shows going on all over the Northeast. He's doing a lot of shows in Boston, New Jersey, New York. And you know what? The people, they're in their 40s and 50s, they're showing up because they miss the music. And it's like a night to go back on memory lane. It's like a magic key to open the magic door and walk into that moment, that time in your life that isn't there anymore for 3 hours.
Rebecca, you have to check out Louis DeVito. You have to look up his global, is it NYC Underground Dance?
Yeah.
All the dance, vocal house. If you're into like dance music and stuff, you have to check out it.
Yeah,
Shout out Louis DeVito too, man. Louis, I miss you. I remember like DJing with you at Rain in Boston and all that stuff. And you know, it's been a great.
Yeah. You know who else lives down here? Bad Boy Joe.
Does he really?
He's my realtor.
Dude, he's like that's a legendary DJ radio host, right? He's DJ.
Bad Boy Joe lives right down the road from me. I see him a lot. It's crazy. Like everyone's moving to Florida, first of all. But you and I started the trend, I think.
I think so too.
But it's crazy. Back Bad Boy Joe and Louis DeVito, they started that compilation thing back in the day. So, but Joe doesn't really participate, and I don't really do much. Like my life has changed tremendously since being a dad. I think being a dad has been probably the greatest accomplishment of my life regarding anything we just talked about. Nothing comes close to being a dad. So with that said, there's a lot of things that changed in my life, different things that I do now to provide for my family. But when the phone rings and they want Lucas Prata to show up, I show up. So, and I get to do that at least 5 to 10 times a year.
Man, that's awesome. And I wish we had so much more time to sit and because it's like going down memory lane and it's like talking about the music and the good stuff. And I wish we had another hour to just sit and talk. Unfortunately, we don't.
That's all right. We'll come back another time.
Man.
Yeah, because you have so many crazy stories and just full circle moments. It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
I've definitely had some fun and experiences in the music business and things that I was able to do and traveling and meeting some wild people, and I wouldn't change it for the world. So if you guys want to do it again one day, let me know.
Yeah, I would love to, man. I really appreciate you coming down and being on the show and talking shop with us and sharing some secrets in your adventure and your journey, man.
Thank you.
It's been great talking.
It's nice to talk about it and bring it back up because, like I said, life has changed so much that sometimes I forget. I literally forget, and it takes something like this or a video that I pop up on my screen or something a picture, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was me back then. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and it's always fun to do stuff like this.
Lucas, you want to tell everybody where they can find you online and on social media?
Yes. So my ex is at Real Lucas Prata. That's at RealLucasPrata. My Instagram is Prata Dude, Prata Dude. And I guess on my Facebook, I think it's Lucas Prata. I mean, LucasPrata. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm usually posting photos of my kid, so a little boring.
And make sure you check out his countdown on Sirius XM radio. He's very entertaining. He's a lot of knowledge, and his selection is actually bar none. We'll link everything down in the description below, so you can go ahead and just click on everything as easy as pie. Special shout out. Thank you so much to Lucas Prata for joining us on the show, man. Thank you so much for watching The Boss Podcast. We're striving to be the #1 podcast.
Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share, so that way we can do more episodes just like this one.
You're getting good at that. You were ready this time.
I was ready.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.